Each week, nearly a dozen movies are released theatrically. 40 films a month, more than 400 a year. That's a plethora of cinema. Too much cinema. You'd have to be an addict to see all that, but don't fret. We've got you covered. This is CinemAddicts.
Hey everyone, it's a new week of CinemAddicts. This is, I'm thinking CinemAddicts episode 219. We have a lot of movies. I just told Bruce before we started recording, we're going to kick the can on this. What are we kicking the can on, Bruce? What did I just tell you that I made this decision?
It's just in the heat of the night because he just doesn't want to deal with such a tough subject or subject matter in this episode. So he's like, this we can't talk about this.
Well, my excuse is What's in the Box will be back for next week. We're going to have the mellifluous music stylings of Peter Beta and crew next week, but we're covering a lot of movies this week. So What's in the Box will be next week. That'll give me and possibly Eric. Eric, have you ever seen In the Heat of the Night?
Yes, and I watched it again this week.
Oh my gosh, I feel like such a jerk. You know what? Maybe we should just keep it. Would you forget it next week if we don't recover
How about
it?
we just see
no,
where
because
see where we're at. Wait, what did you say?
There's I believe there's a sequel to this, and I did not watch that, so that'll give me time to watch the sequel and kind of throw that into the mix as well.
I want to throw something into the mix as well. A publicist we all know and love. I'm not going to mention that person's name. Bruce Berkey. What is that movie that you wanted? American Fiction?
Yeah.
No screener links available. See? Shut it down. No. And the zone of interest is disinterested in Bruce Perky and Eric Holmes. You guys are not going to get okay. But I got the link. You know why? Do you guys know why I get these links? Eric, why don't you start? Why do I get these links?
Because you're 4-star Greg. They know you're going to give it 4 stars at least.
Bruce, I think I'm an authority in cinema. Is that why I get all the stuff?
Oh yeah, that's it.
Is that it? That sounded as disingenuous as me on a weekly basis. Bruce, you want to add anything to that? No.
I mean, you're just a luminary who's been interviewing famous people for years now, and such a name in the industry that they have to give you links. I mean, even if they don't want to, they have to give them to you.
I'm not a luminary. I'm a lunamary. So I'm really. Thank you guys so much for those really horrible. I don't know why I'm getting these links. Okay. So anyways, Bruce and Eric should be getting these links. That's neither here nor there. American Fiction comes out next week. The Zone of Interest. I'm sure eventually we'll get to it down the road. I think especially Bruce is excited to go see The Zone of Interest. I don't know if it's going to be playing in your parts, and it might be hard because around Christmas time, Bruce, hard for you to get out like 30 minutes out of the way, out of your whole thing to go.
Usually if they're those kind of movies, they might play at one theater, and it's usually about 45 minutes away each way or longer. So
and only plays at noon.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, it'll play like one showing, and it'll be here for a week and gone. So yeah.
And Eric, I never asked. For you, it's only maybe a 30-minute drive or maybe even a 15-minute drive for stuff that you want to see. For example, if The Zone of Interest or American Fiction, they come out next week, most likely will they be playing in your neck of the woods, or it's very easy to drive to get there?
It's hit and miss. There's one theater here in Colorado Springs called Tinseltown. It's like I think it's a Cinemark theater. I'm not sure, but sometimes they play indie movies. That's usually the play. Like if they are going to play an indie movie, that's the place that'll do it. Otherwise, I will have to go to one of the Alamo Draft Houses up in Denver, and I don't always get a chance to go up there. But
it's about an hour drive, right? Maybe an hour drive from where you are.
About 45 minutes. Depends on the traffic. Sometimes if you speed and there's no traffic, you can get there in a half hour. But usually 45 minutes is a good time to go for.
So what happens if you're Bruce Perky and you have to drive an hour to go see The Zone of Interest, or maybe Eric Holmes doesn't get out to Denver, hour drive. He's busy during the week, I understand. Or you're someone like me who doesn't leave the house. What are you going to do? What hopefully you can do is, maybe the best advice is make some money, put some gas, make some time to see these movies. But if you can't, and you're like me, and you're shut in, and you don't want to spend all that gas money, we might have some good movies this week. We'll leave the judgment up to Eric and Bruce. Features for this episode include The Sacrifice Game, movie that's streaming on Shudder Friday, December 8th. Lord of Misrule, a horror thriller that me and Eric are going to review. Everyone Will Burn. I say that to all our CinemAddicts Facebook group members at night when I get tired of all their movie recommendations. I hate our group, Bruce. That's why I never. What do you think of the group, CinemAddicts Facebook group? Do you hate them? Do you love them, Eric, Bruce?
They're wonderful, wonderful people. And in fact, right now there's a gift exchange going on. Come on now, how can you hate them so much?
No, they're wonderful.
I just want to say I do not condone them burning.
Okay, very good.
I'm putting my foot down about that.
No burning, but who knows? Everyone will burn is not a command that I'm thinking in my head. It's an actual movie that Bruce and Eric have seen. Let's see if they recommend this film, which comes out on digital platforms December 5th, actually, as we're recording. It's out right now. Finally, Bruce and I will be reviewing Leave the World Behind, the latest Julia Roberts, Marshala Ali film, which should be interesting. Comes out December 8th. It's already been out in select theaters, probably in the big markets since like late November. So you guys might have an idea of what Leave the World Behind, but most of you will be able to see it when it hits Netflix Friday, December 8th. And we might get to into the heat of the night, as Bruce alluded to. Who knows? Let's play it by ear. Let's see if I'm going to be in time to feed the dog that I'm dog sitting right now within that span of 45 minutes. So let's see if we can do it. Eric Holmes. And Eric Holmes, here's the warning. Can you warn the listeners about something that's going on with you right now?
Yes. The dog seemed to make his way outside and he's barking to get back in. So I got to go let him in real quick.
Okay, go let the dog. Right back. Okay, go let the dog in, Eric. Okay, he will be right back.
I don't know who let the dogs out, woof, woof, but I'm about to fix that right now.
Okay, good. I'm glad Eric did not do the copyright sort of a tune with who let the dogs out, because I would have had to edit that, Bruce. But the second warning regarding Eric Holmes is his Wi-Fi is a bit spotty. He may actually cut out of this episode, not just to let the dogs in, but his Wi-Fi may be out. So we'll see. It might just be the me and Bruce show. We'll see. 1 second. Eric is putting on his headphones. Eric, you can hear us right now. You just let the dogs in, and I just warned everybody, you might leave the show a little bit early, not because you're in poor health, but because of your Wi-Fi signals. Not very good today, right, Eric?
Yeah, it seems to be working now, but it was sketchy earlier. So we'll see what happens. Maybe I'll stick around for the whole thing. Maybe Wi-Fi, I'll be like, nope, Eric, you're done, out of here. So we'll see what happens. But it seems to be working fine now. So we'll see what happens.
Bruce and Eric, you want to say anything before we launch into the features about anything? Anything, the world of Bruce Berkey or Eric Holmes? Anything off the top of your head? Yes. Okay, Eric, I want to hear it.
I've not seen Leave the World Behind, but I did see The Sacrifice Game, Lord of Misrule, and Everyone Will Burn. And we have kind of a Volcano Dante's Peak situation with these movies, or a Deep Impact Armageddon kind of situation, because the three of these movies have a lot in common. And they're like similar versions, similar stories, but like wildly different versions of that story. So that'll be fun to get into.
It'll be a volcanic episode. And after you're done with this episode, please listen to Eric's interview with the Lord of Misrule director, William Brent Bell. I'm going to add this to the episode as well, because Eric and I will be doing a review of Lord of Misrule, and then listen after the show for his interview with William Brent Bell. Now let's get to the featured reviews. The Sacrifice Game, streaming on Shudder December 8th. Centers on a couple of girls. They're at a Catholic girls' boarding school. It's the holidays. All the girls are leaving. All the instructors are leaving, except one teacher. Sounds like the Holdovers, right? Except one teacher.
It does.
Right?
It does.
Okay. And you're going to hold over your review next week for Eric Holmes. Eric Holmes, next week, you're going to talk about the Holdovers, okay? Because
I mean, if I talked about it this week, that'd be 4 movies that have something in common.
Right? Okay, so 2 girls are left in the Catholic all-girls boarding school with a teacher and the teacher's boyfriend, or it's never established if he's an employee in the... anyways. Several people are left in that boarding school. Unfortunately, there are several killers on the loose. Some that are probably in their early to mid-20s, maybe about, I think there's 4 of them. And the movie starts with them actually attacking a suburban couple and killing them. Pretty flashy sequence and violent sequence. Right off the top, you know there's going to be bloodletting and gore. I don't know how much gore is in this movie. I'm going to let Bruce and Eric talk about, but that's the Sacrifice Game. Eventually, these killers end up at the boarding school with these assumedly scared, innocent individuals. And let's see what happens when these 2 people mix. There's going to be a lot of bloodshed and killing in the Sacrifice Game. The most important thing, does the Sacrifice Game work as a movie? Bruce, let's start with you.
Overall, I would say yes, it does work as a movie. Kind of the vibe you're getting, I think it's supposed to take place in 1971. That's one thing to kind of get the vibe of how this is going. And like you said, the opening, I think it's a pre-title sequence, is these 4 kind of hippie types, very, very Manson-esque. You know, they come in and they invade a house and kill a couple that are just hanging out in their house, and it's shot really cool. Like it's shot all from outside the house, so the camera kind of goes around the house, and you're looking in the windows as the attack and murders are occurring. And then, like you said, the rest of the movie is pretty much at this boarding school, boarded up, Shining-esque, for the winter break. And what this movie is kind of a split movie, and I won't talk about exactly what the second half or third act of the movie is, because that's, I think, supposed to be somewhat of a surprise. But it plays out like it's going to be a version of a home invasion sort of movie, right? You get these movies like The Strangers and those kind of movies where you have innocent, normal, everyday people. Their safe space gets invaded by people who are out to be sadistic and do them harm. And those people that invade are always the same type too. And I was kind of noticing that as I was watching this, is like they always have this thing where it's like they want to toy with them and they're kind of sarcastic. And sometimes it is very, or funny games would be another example, right? But sometimes it's very dread-inducing. Sometimes it's a little more of just a thrill ride. I think this leans more towards the thrill ride. And I was half and half on the acting of the sinister group, because a little bit of it was slightly overplayed for me, but also the tone was kind of working with that as well, because the tone was, for a movie that could be really hardcore and really like disturbing, once again, funny games, this movie has a little bit lighter, a little more playful genre touch to it, somewhat. It's still violent, and it's for horror fans. It's not really for average moviegoer type person. I would say that the tone shifts in it kind of work for me and kind of didn't work for me. Overall, I think I'm on the positive side on this one, though.
Look, Bruce, your review, I'm so glad that you said this. There is a tone shift in this movie that I read a freaking review at a very reputable publication, and they basically say what that spoiler is. And,
Yeah.
on one hand, you can actually talk about the spoiler, and I'm sure a lot of reviews will discuss what do the killers, what are the real intent of the killers or the innocent people? What's the motivations? That could be part of the plot, but my opinion, you're not going to enjoy the sacrifice game if you know what that is. And I can't believe the review I read. I understand why it could be the fabric of that plot, but I'm so glad that you didn't mention that. Okay, so anyways. Yeah. Eric, your review of the sacrifice game, what did you think?
So at the end of the sacrifice game, it was really cool. No, actually, this is kind of tough because I kind of get the review, because a lot of what I really loved about this was kind of what happened in the second half. But even in the first half, I kind of like it was a little bit House of a Thousand Corpses, Devil's Rejects, a little bit the Fireflies in there. There's a little bit of that going on, when they get to the school and then start, continuing on their thing there. That's kind of where it takes a turn. And shoot, I'd really like to do a spoiler on this, but without getting into that, I would just say I like where it goes, and it does a thing in this movie, as does Everyone Will Burn and Lord of Misrule. That does a thing that really bugs the hell out of me, that I think they handled really well in this, that I have not seen in movies kind of like this.
Oh, okay. And you can't really mention it because that would be spoiler discussions.
It would be.
Is it, let me guess without spoiling it, but is it a certain kind of character that shows up a lot in these kind of movies, but that they deal with it in a different sort of way than they usually do?
I believe so.
Yes.
No? Okay. Very, very cool. Here's the thing. My thoughts on the sacrifice game. There's an actress. Her name is Georgia Akin or Aiken. I don't know how to pronounce the last name. She plays one of the schoolgirls, very meek, timid schoolgirl, Clara, however you pronounce her name. She is one of the main girls. The other girl is also meek and timid, and that is Samantha, played by Madison Baines. So Samantha and Clara are the main girls who are left in that boarding school. I think Madison Baines does a good performance, solid, would like to see her in more stuff. I have a feeling Georgia Akin as Clara, she's going places. I have a feeling this could be the start of something, because I was really glued to her character and what her arc was throughout the fabric of the narrative. And to Bruce's point, the killers in the movie, I just wish they stood out a little bit more. They didn't really. The first like maybe two acts didn't stand out for me that much. but this is what Eric likes to say in some of his reviews. The third act is so fantastic for me. I really love the third act, and I think it just bumps up everything. It, like Eric, you like to say, lifts all boats. It lifted this movie. And with George's performance and Madison's performance, I really ended up enjoying the Sacrifice Game, even though the slow burn parts of the first and second act, well, kind of sort of dragged for me. I was just waiting for something to happen. And when that something did happen, like Eric, I just love that third act. Yes, Eric.
I would say that, well, first of all, I love George's character because she reminded me a lot of my niece, May. So the whole time I'm watching her, I'm not looking at Georgia acting. I'm looking at my niece saying, wow, May, you're really good in this. Oh, wait, that's not her. And I love her and Madison's kind of chemistry, as well as the, like you kind of knocked on the killers, but I kind of like their dynamic as well, because I think what they set up early on pays off a lot in the third act. There's like little things that they set up that when they get to the third act, I think it finally pays off.
Okay, well, let's see. What does this pay off? Do we really enjoy the Sacrifice Game, which is directed by Jen Wexler? She also co-wrote this. Bruce, what is your rating or final thoughts on the Sacrifice Game?
Well, I'm going to say 3.5. I think it's pretty solid, pretty entertaining overall. And like we have all alluded to, I think it takes some turns that a movie like this doesn't always take, which I definitely really appreciated that part of it. One thing I would point out, people hated It's a Wonderful Knife, and we kind of liked it. So maybe I'm not good at reviewing holiday horror movies. So keep telling me, people, if I'm wrong. But yeah, I'd say 3.5 on this one.
Yeah, I really enjoy this. I think I'm sort of where you are, Bruce. But then again, that third act just really put everything into perspective for me. I wouldn't mind watching this movie again because I feel like, as I love it so much, I could really stomach the first two acts the second time around to see how all this stuff plays out. So for me, 4 stars. 4 stars for the Sacrifice Game. What about you, Eric?
I'm higher than both of you. This one's currently 4.5. I'll give it 4.5 with room to grow. This could be a 5-star for me after watching it a couple of times, because there's just certain things that they do in this movie that they do in other movies that really bug me, that they kind of knocked out of the park for me. And so I enjoyed this quite a bit.
That is a very strong recommend from Eric Holmes. The Sacrifice Game, 4.5 from him. Bruce Berkey, mild recommend. No, it's not a mild. That's a solid recommend. 3.5, right?
It's pretty solid. I had a good time watching it. And this is not like a long, artsy movie. This is like a meat and potatoes, horror movie. So
yes, there is bloodletting. So again, like Bruce said, if you're looking for some kind of, I know what you did last summer, something that it's palatable. There are things that are not very palatable in this movie. So 3.5 from Eric, 3.5 from Bruce, 4.5 from Eric, 4 from me. Sacrifice Game, streaming on Shudder, December 8th. Now let's get to another movie called Lord of Misrule. It's in theaters on demand, December 8th. Eric, we saw this movie, 2.5 weeks ago? Does this movie still stick with you? It kind of still does stick with me in a sense, but it's based on tradition, it seems. There's sort of a folk horror element to it. And how did this movie, a couple weeks later, does it still revolve around your brain as far as what this movie is about?
So this is another movie I can't talk too much about because spoilers and whatnot. I can tell you that it's directed by William Brent Bell, who did Orphan First Kill, which I was not a fan of, mostly because of the child character being creepy and all that. Doesn't really do it for me. But this one does a lot. I really liked the tone and the atmosphere in this. I liked the kind of like early on when they're at that what do you call it, that festival thing that they're at, and hanging out there. There's parts later on in the movie where there's sort of cults getting together. Like anytime you get in this movie, when they get a bunch of people together, I kind of want to be there, even in certain areas where it's like that would be very dangerous to be at, but I kind of want to hang out and live in that area, which is weird to say. Well,
let's give it a little bit of context. You were alluding to it, Eric. It centers on a priest played by Tuppence Middleton. She is the town priest. She's Catholic, right? So she's leading a congregation within this small town. You think at the beginning she has command of this small town, since she and the church are the spiritual center of this environment, so to speak. Who knows? But unfortunately, during like this aforementioned festival, her daughter goes missing, and she's trying to find what happened to her daughter. And unfortunately, her husband's a little bit of an idiot, and he's trying to go along with the flow, and he's not really being proactive. She's the only one being proactive. And as she's trying to investigate her daughter's disappearance, she starts to suspect the townsfolk, the townspeople. They have their own baked in history of how the town came to be, their relationship with maybe a supernatural element, possibly. And then that's commingled with her Catholic faith, and she's trying to come to grips a little bit with her faith, but mainly she's focused on finding her daughter. What will this woman, this priest, do to actually get her daughter back if her daughter is still alive? That is the premise of Lord of Misrule, directed by William Brent Bell. Again, Eric's interview with Bell will be available at the end of this episode. Yes, Eric. So some more thoughts on Lord of Misrule.
I would also point out, not really a spoiler, I don't think, but Ralph Ineson is in this movie, and you get to see him naked. So if that's something you're into, which why wouldn't you be? Yeah,
Ralph Ineson that from The Witch. Yes, very good, very good.
Yeah, I think one of the things that that I really enjoyed about this movie is kind of the religious mob. That whole aspect of it just had like a lot of creepiness to it, and kind of set this movie out for me. And yeah, I was, and I don't know if maybe perhaps my expectations were low because what I thought of Orphan First Kill, but as far as I can tell, William Brent Bell just nailed it with this one. It reminds me of, I mentioned playing Blood on the Clock Tower. There's a demon called Legion where everyone's the bad guy except for like a few people, and it gave me those kind of vibes, and I really enjoyed this a lot.
This is a horror film, okay?
Yeah, definitely.
It's only 80 minutes, and we were talking about bloodletting. I don't know, I'm so fixated on this, but the Sacrifice game has a lot of violence, so it's tough to take if you can't take the violent stuff. Lord of Misrule is more of psychological horror. There's so if you're worried about any kind of gore, that kind of stuff, the scares are actually within the mental element of there are things that happen violently, but it won't turn your stomach like the Sacrifice game does. Yes, Eric.
There's a bit at the end which gets kind of dream logic a little bit. I don't know if that's the right way.
Sure. Yeah.
I think you know the scene I'm talking about.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely love that scene.
This movie
absolutely loved it.
You know what, Eric? This movie, you and Bruce are more expert in this genre than I am, but I think this horror film could have gone a very predictable path. But within the final 10 to 15 minutes, it goes a different kind of direction. And I love the ending of the movie, which I talked to William Brent Bell in my interview with him about the ending of this. So Patreon members, you'll be treated to Brent Bell's interpretation of the end of the movie, which was completely different from mine. So Eric, I had a completely different read. So we're and Bruce, I don't know. Bruce, you don't have the time. The reason why I said do not see Lord of Misrule is there's so many movies you had to see, Bruce. But I think, Eric, do you agree that this is a movie, even if Bruce doesn't give it a pass or recommends it, it's something he should watch? Don't you agree with that as far as the genre and what he's passionate about?
I think so, but I was so off the mark as far as like, Bruce might like it or not like it, I'm not sure, but like with, I was so off the mark with Orphan First Kill because I didn't like that, but a lot of people loved it.
Sure.
And so this is a movie that I liked a lot. So maybe someone that liked Orphan First Kill, maybe they'll watch this and go, Eric, what are you talking about? This one sucked. I have no idea. All I can tell you is I watched Lord of Misrule. I'm like, I want to watch that again.
I think if I recall, Bruce, you had the same review of Orphan First Kill as Eric did. Were you a fan of Orphan First?
I kind of liked it. I liked it. It was a mild like. I liked it when it got very
campy. Yeah.
Yes, very campy in the last act. I loved it. And I was like, it should have gone hard on that, like all the way through.
Yeah. Well, I think I liked Orphan First Kill more than all of you. I'm glad, Bruce, you corrected me and said you actually recommend that film, especially during those campy moments. My only warning is Lord of Misrule isn't campy and it is not operatic. But the third act is a very thinking person's act too. There's some really cool stuff that happens regarding a location, and Eric mentioned dream logic situation, really well executed. And hopefully down the line, maybe Bruce will see Lord of Misrule when he doesn't have to watch. He and Eric don't have to watch 20 movies per week. Lord of Misrule in theaters on demand December 8th. I'm giving it a solid 4 stars. I just really love this movie. It's a rewatchable film for me, especially the third act. Eric.
Yeah, I'm gonna give this a Greg special as well at 4 stars. Um, and again, I don't know if it was like lowered expectations, but this movie really it southpawed me. I wasn't expecting to like it as much as I did, and I really like this a lot.
Now, here's a movie. The next movie is Everyone Will Burn. I saw this in my emails and I said, the poster's amazing. This looks like, what is it? What country is it? It's a Mexican horror or Spain? Spanish.
Spain, yeah.
Set in Spain, subtitled horror that looks really interesting. This is a Bruce film. That's the reason why I wanted to get you into it. And this is also an Eric film. So with that said, Bruce, I'm going to let you take it away. Everyone Will Burn, directed by David Hebrero and co-written by David Hebrero. And it looks awesome. I feel like I missed out on this movie. Did I miss out on Everyone Will Burn?
Maybe. I think you would enjoy it. I'm very curious to hear what Eric thinks of this movie as well. There's some things I really love about this movie. There's some other things that I didn't love as much, but were pretty good. I think, first of all, the pre-title sequence is pretty strong. And I think it's okay to give that away. Would you agree, Eric? I mean, we can kind of give away the
because I mean that's sort of what sets it off. Yeah. Like if you can't talk about it, you can't talk about the movie at all.
I think the trailer even kind of shows it, but basically it starts out with a woman, Maria. Maria, and she's standing on the edge of a bridge, ready to obviously kill herself. And from behind her, this young girl who comes up behind her. It's like she seems to be covered in blood or maybe
mud.
Yeah. And she's just standing there, and she has almost the classic spooky girl look. She's standing there, she's glaring, like she's gonna start fires or break up the prom at Carrie's high school or something. And the first thing she says is "mama" to the woman on the bridge, and the woman comes down. "I'm not your mama." That's up. And very quickly, the woman is going to kill herself. Scoops up the little girl into her car, is driving along. The cops pull him over, and she says, I'm just taking her. And the girl calls her mama, and she says, "I'm not your mama." And then the guy's like, "Wait, what? This isn't your daughter?" And they're like, "Get out of the car." All this kind of stuff, right? Immediately, it starts to escalate, almost a Coen Brothers kind of moment, right? And they get out of the car, and before you know it, the little girl's doing her thing, staring at the guy. One cop gets stabbed in the neck. The other one catches on fire. And you see that on the poster. And the titles come up. And you're like, wow, that's one of the better titles since the Evil Dead Rise. That's pretty great. Now,
wow,
that isn't the tone of the whole movie, but it definitely gives you some of the flavor. Because the weird thing about this movie for me, and that is, this is best described as a feverish, demonic Spanish soap opera. Because there's a lot of soap operatic elements to this. The basic thing in this movie is that there is this small town, narrow-minded community you get in these kind of stories sometimes, where everyone's, sniping and gossiping and all this kind of stuff. And Maria has been the focus of a lot of this for various reasons that you find out throughout the story. So to have this essentially demonic kid apparently with her, helping her out, just creates a whole new dynamic for her in her life and for everyone else in the village. And I'm going to leave it at that. There's a whole bunch of lore that gets involved as well. A bunch of characters come in and out. It's definitely kind of a long movie. I think it's like 2 hours and 8-9 minutes, something like that. For me, I would have trimmed it down, but I think the kind of inter-neighbor kind of, like I said, soap opera-ish elements, melodramatic elements, if you like that, and I think they were going for that, then I think you won't mind the length. For me, I would go more for a leaner version of this. But overall, I enjoyed it. It was definitely a little uneven as far as the tone goes, though.
Eric, what about you?
I like this one a lot. The actor that played Lucia Sofia Garcia. I don't know if she's a little person in real life. She looks like it in the movie, or if that's a special effect. I believe this is Sofia Garcia's first movie, so I have no idea.
I think she is. I think because that's a key plot element, and it also is important to the character of Maria. So I think she is. I think she is.
And without Does Sofia Garcia have two roles in this?
I don't think so.
There's the all right. Yeah, we'll not talk about that. Maybe, but this one's
Maybe I
kind
wasn't
of
paying attention. Maybe she did. I don't know.
there's this is kind of like the Lucia would be the creepy kid in this one,
Yeah.
but it's kind of like My Daughter the Demon.
Yes.
It does that. It's that kind of movie, but it takes it from a different perspective because it's not it's this creepy kid that's doing these things. It's you get to see it from the point of view of, I guess, what would normally be the antagonist in this kind of movie. So you get a whole different perspective of what this kind of movie would be. And then Maria Jose, played by Macarena Gomez, she's great in this, and you get to see her kind of she's kind of the victim in a lot of it. But then when things start going south, like the town, like the whole time, the town just hates her and treats her like crap the entire time. So then when she gets this, when Lucia becomes part of her life and they're like, hey, you gonna help us in town? She's like, take rocks. Screw you guys. Why would I do that? And so it's kind of it's kind of neat watching a movie from the perspective of a would-be antagonist, maybe not. Much like the Sacrifice Game and much like Lord of Misrule, I love the ending on this, especially the Sacrifice Game, because the Sacrifice Game had kind of an ending where it's not like a big showy ending, but it's like a really emotional one. And I think this one has kind of a similar ending where it's not big and showy, but it's kind of like they pumped the brakes a little bit and just kind of made the ending what I think it should have been. Yeah, it was good stuff.
It has a mid-credit sequence too. Did you watch that?
The mid-credits. Oh, no, I didn't. I'll have to go back and check that out.
I'll just say there's a mid-credit sequence that firmly sets it up for a continuing story. And I won't say what happens in that, but I think it's two children meet each other. Let's just say that.
Okay.
I don't know if you.
I could kind of see where that would go. I didn't see it, but I could see where that would go. But yeah. And this has some like the filmmaking of this, like the way it's shot and blocked and all that. It definitely has like giallo vibes, like the new giallo kind of vibes, where it's like who's really the guy that does
hard reds and stuff in there too.
Yeah, like who's the guy that does the Dogs Don't Wear Pants?
Oh boy, he was a Swedish or Nordic guy, but I was thinking of also a little bit of Pedro Almodovar as well. Yeah. Like kind of this overheated. The character of Maria, the mom, is like verging off the rails this whole movie, and I think I really, really loved how unhinged her character was a lot of times. It was almost like you have this unhinged character that's been picked on for years, and she gets a daughter that can finally give her more power. Like she only has power now. It's a really odd movie in that way, and I kind of really loved that. Like I said, I wished it was a little tighter, but as it sits with me, I think I'll like it more too.
I would also kind of compare this a lot to like Lose the Flower of Evil.
Yeah,
because it has some kind of shades of Juan Diego Escobar Zate on this, where it's like really bright colored, but and really pretty to look at, but like all the stuff that's happening is like really horrible to watch. So kind of, this is a nice scene. Ooh, no, maybe not.
All right, so that is Everyone Will Burn, theaters December 1st, so it's already in theaters, and it hits, most importantly, digital platforms starting December 5th, so it's already out on digital and on demand. Eric, your rating on Everyone Will Burn?
I will probably give this 4.5. We'll go 4.5.
4.5.
This one's another. Actually, the Sacrifice Game, Lord of Misrule, and this one all have room to grow because I enjoyed all three of them. And I gotta say, the three of these movies I think would make a great triple feature.
Okay, wow, it's very interesting. Bruce, your rating on Everyone Will Burn?
I think I'll go 4 stars, and this is the one I think that could grow for me too, because it's loosey goosey, but kind of in a cool way, and it's kind of sitting with me, and I like it.
Okay, now do we like the next movie? It's out of all of the features, it has the most stars. It's streaming on Netflix. Thank you, Netflix, for providing me and Bruce Perky with a link for Leave the World Behind. It is directed by, I forgot how to pronounce his name, Sam Esmail or Sam Esmail is the creator of a show that I liked, at least for the first two seasons. I've only seen the first two seasons of Mr. Robot. So he's the director and writer of Leave the World Behind. It's a possibly it's described as a post-apocalyptic thriller or something on Rotten Tomatoes, or it's been, yeah, well-acted apocalyptic thriller. So that's not too much of a spoiler because you're wondering, you have all these people in this really beautiful house. Some of these people are, it's sort of a staycation for of the weekend for this well-to-do couple played by Julia Roberts and why am I blanking? And Ethan Hawke. They're a loving couple. They bring their two kids. They're both of the kids are like early teens. The oldest is a son. The youngest is a daughter. The youngest daughter, I think she's around 12 or 13. She's obsessed with Friends. It's a running theme. A really, you know what? You think that's just going to be a little minor thing? It's a big thing. Her obsession to see the finale of Friends plays a big part in Leave the World Behind because that's a big part of her character, the youngest daughter. And the youngest daughter, and it's a little trope. Usually, the youngest person in the clan is able to see things that a lot of the adults don't. You're going to see that too. That's not a spoiler either. So there's a lot of tropes that are bandied about. And another big trope is Marshala Ali. He plays a guy who just a seeming stranger who actually goes into their house, knocks on their door, and he's with his presumed daughter. And he tells them, hey, this is my house. I was in the city wondering if we could spend the night over at my house. I know you guys are renting it for the weekend for me, but due to certain situations, me and my daughter need to spend the night. Can that happen? So within that framework, Julie Roberts' character does not trust these two people. And you think it might be is it going to be a racist undertone kind of movie that plays into it? Or is it just a general mistrust kind of movie, people not trusting people? At the beginning of the movie, Julie Roberts' character, when they're in the city, she says, I think it starts off with, I just bleeping hate people. So that's another theme. But ultimately, you have this family unit, and they're trying to figure out what's going on around their environment. Is there something going on? Because the other day, they were at the beach. They saw a big freight just crash onto the beach. And there's a lot of weird things. There's a lot of deer in the neighborhood for some reason. There's a lot of weird, quote unquote, apocalyptic things that are happening in this beautiful, almost mansion that they're hanging out in. Is it the end of the world? Did they leave the world behind? Is this a watchable movie? Bruce Berkey.
Yes, it is a watchable movie. I was surprised by actually how watchable it was. It is a pretty long movie. It's like 2 hours and 20 minutes, but it went by pretty breezy for me, although there's a couple scenes I could say you could trim a little bit. There's a scene where Mahershala and Julia Roberts are dancing and stuff, and I'm like, okay, I get it. We don't need this for 5 minutes, but it was fine. This is once again, to go back to Anderson, something goes down smooth. This is one of those kind of movies. This is what you want from a Netflix movie. You know, you got the stars, you've got the budget, but it's interesting and fun and engaging story. This is, well, two things. First of all, it's another one in these ongoing B&B horror thriller subgenre that's become a thing in the last, I don't know, 10 to 5 years. Probably more like 5 years. We've had quite a few of these lately. Also, this definitely feels like if this could be made by M. Night Shyamalan, and this is a property that M. Night Shyamalan could have been attached to. It has 100%. It has its own style for sure. And I'd like to mention the style a little bit here. There's some really great swooping camera shots, almost Argento-ish kind of things. There's a lot of shots where you'll go like outside of the house and around the house and follow a character through the house, and then like seamlessly, obviously with digital effects somewhat, go into the house through the window. There's a few of those shots, and they're a little showy, but they're also kind of fun because they give you the setting and the mood of what's going on in that particular scene. And I will say it's used at the end. There's an end-ish shot, not the ending shot, but close to the ending shot, where they go from someplace low up into the sky above the tree line and then back down. That is fantastic.
Yeah.
But overall, what I liked about this movie, what surprised me about this movie, is it sets itself up, and you know it's going to be apocalyptic or a thriller or home invasion. It's something, right? You know, you got the classic suburban upper class family, white family going to the beach to this palatial bed and breakfast. I mean, this is like such a mansion. And then And then you have, you're like, I think, oh, this is going to be them and basically having to deal with possibly the end of the world or something happening. We don't know. And they're going to have to just fight for their lives or hunker down, or it's going to be a siege movie or something, right? And then you get the introduction of Mahershala Ali. And I want to call out Miala, I'm not saying her name right, Harold,
Right.
playing his
Ruth.
daughter,
Yeah.
Ruth. I think she's the unsung hero of this movie.
She's so good.
She was in Bodies, 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 which I've just gone back to watch, which I might mention next week because I haven't finished it yet. I know that Eric watched it, and I made me go back to watch that because I was so impressed by her in this movie. And her role in this movie, I think, is kind of key because she's like this sardonic voice of like calling out the bull kind of a lot of times in this.
Yeah.
Oh, you have to bleep me again. I'm so
No,
sorry.
no worries. I
Yeah,
got you.
But I think the secret sauce to this movie is this. You have that basic setup, like I said, like this, Shyamalan kind of thing, like normal people, crazy events are starting to happen, what's going on? But the introduction, the social interaction of the people who own the house coming back to their house and the people who don't own the house still being in the house, and just how that plays out, I think is really engaging. And there's a lot of fun and insightful stuff that goes on there. But overall, this is just straight up entertainment. And I really quite enjoyed it.
Straight up entertainment is correct, Bruce. This is movie, let's say, here's the prohibitive one, 140 minutes. And guess what?
Yeah.
It's worth every minute. You know why? Because it's like an M. Night film crossed in with a play in an enclosed space with really good actors. And then the M. Night stuff, or the B movie awesomeness, there are some really standout action thriller moments. There's a person in a car on a road. There is that beach sequence. Kevin Bacon makes an appearance, and it's more than a cameo, but it is a really well done segment with Kevin Bacon. You mentioned the camera shot. Even the use of friends makes sense to me. So a lot of things, I was expecting sort of a empty calories experience, 140-minute slog with Leave the World Behind, but I ended up with a very solid drama with some excellent actiony set pieces. I am scared. I am now scared of deer, by the way. Not scared of deer. My goodness. So that's not giving too much away.
The best use of deer crowds since The Ring 2, I guess I'll say.
Quick question. With Julia Roberts, and you mentioned Kevin Bacon, does Kiefer Sutherland and Oliver Platt make an appearance in this too to do a Flatliners
They're
reunion?
sleeping in the back.
Yeah, we love that.
They're off screen. It's fine. It's fine.
Yeah. Look, everyone has their moments. Even, look, I feel bad because their son is, look, okay, their son, we all love our family members, but he's the one in the family who's a complete DICK. Let's just face it. But the thing is, we're all family. And that actor has the really unthankful role of being sort of a really big heel in the movie. And what are you going to do?
He kind of gets it, though. He kind of gets this for that.
Right. And we have to also mention Farrah McKenzie as Rosie, the youngest one in the clan. She's the one obsessed by Friends. She's very good. And she also has a couple of her own moments to shine. This is a really well-written film. Like Bruce was saying, this is top-tier stuff, Netflix film. Really enjoyed it. I'm surprised. Solid 4 stars for me. The Greg special, as Eric Holmes would say, for Leave the World Behind. 4 stars for me. Bruce, what about you?
I just want to mention the final moments of this movie might seem a little abrupt to people, but if you think on it and sit on it a little bit, I ended up loving the final shots. I think it was actually chef's kiss. Perfect. I'm going to 4.5 on this. I really like this movie quite a bit. I'm kind of a sucker too for these during the apocalypse, post-apocalyptic kind of movies. So I liked it quite a bit.
I'm not giving too much away, Bruce. Did you like the apocalyptic theme of the movie being somewhat topical? Did you like the topical nature of what they were trying to say? Or is that
it worked? Because I think none of it was too heavy-handed, I don't think. I mean, it was there and it was toyed with a little bit, but it let's say these kind of movies would very easily fall into one side being evil and one side being the good guys. And I think there was a lot of gray area there, which is more true to life, I think. Even the character of Kevin Bacon, I'm not gonna say what kind of character he is, but the kind of character he should be in a movie like this.
Oh yeah.
When he was talking, he was reasonable. I thought he was reasonable with what he's saying, and the way they treat him more in a rounded way than they would have to. I also would point out to Eric, if he ever watches this movie, which is going to be on Netflix if this weekend, if he's bored and the family wants to watch it or whatever.
I'm down.
I predict that the character of Ethan Hawke's character will annoy the hell out of Eric. Just knowing how he hates indecisive and wishy-washy characters.
There is going to be one moment. No, Bruce, yeah, I know what you're talking about, but there is going to be one specific moment regarding a window, rolling up the window or rolling it down.
I think the way he acts in multiple scenes is going to really annoy Eric. But the good thing is he's not the main guy. There's a whole bunch of characters, so he's okay being annoying there. I think you won't mind him being annoying there because he's not the main focus. But you'll definitely hate his character. I have a feeling so.
Well, Eric, maybe next week, along with In the Heat of the Night, rewind this movie for us if you can see it with the family this weekend on Netflix.
I might do it. Plus, like I don't watch a lot of Julia Roberts movies, but every time I do, I'm like, I really like Julia Roberts. I should see more of her movies, but for some reason, I just don't.
You know what's great about this movie?
Against type, right? When you say a little against type,
100%, Bruce. It's not a showy role for her. She's part of the ensemble, which is completely the perfect way. It's a really good story, and I'm glad she picked it. That's what I was thinking, Bruce, right? I mean, it's not like this showy nomination kind of situation. It's just a really well done movie.
This is one of those movies that you don't get a ton of anymore, where it's just like straightforward. Like we talk about entertainment. This is that kind of movie where you just sit down. This is also one of those, like, the whole family could watch it kind of movies. It's not too gory.
Oh, it's scary.
A little scary. It's a little
scary.
Gory, a little creepy, but it's not like intense. Like it's super intense, right?
Yeah.
I don't think it is. I don't know.
Well,
I might have different standards.
All right. So that is 4.5 from Bruce Perky. 4 for me for Leave the World Behind on Netflix, Friday, December 8th. We're going to close. We're going to do In the Heat of the Night next week, folks, because I have to take my it's dark out. There's coyotes outside my house. So I got to take the dog out.
They're waiting for Greg to come out inside. We're so hungry, Greg. Yeah. Come on outside.
I need to leave this podcast behind and take my dog out for a little bit of number 1 and number 2. Let's just didn't want to throw out the visual there, but so why don't we just do a quick?
Ooh, you're bringing an appetizer with you. That's nice.
Oh, that's very good. I gotta put that drum hit, whatever, rim shot. Recommends from Eric. Well, first of all, I didn't get to review this. Fast Charlie, it's on digital and on demand December 8th. I have an interview with Philip Noyce. It's going to be on the Find Your Film podcast. Noyce. Yeah. Pierce Brosnan, he plays a fixer. He plays a fixer out in, where's the location that he's out in? Not Louisiana. I forgot where it's set in. Where is it? It's set somewhere in the South. It's a really well done film. James Caan's last movie, and he's a fixer who works for a boss, played by James Caan. And unfortunately, his latest mission to fix, which is to actually assist a hitman to execute his hit on a mark, that goes awry. And ultimately, Fast Charlie, again played by Pierce Brosnan, sees his organization being actually turned over, and there's a sense of betrayal. You've seen this stuff before, and when you're thinking Philip Noyce, you're thinking this is the guy who directed Patriot Games, and he's an action director. He did Dead Calm, Bruce, which you and I both love. He did Salt. He's done a lot of great films. But this is, I think, one of his funnier, cheekier kind of films. And it's a really good performance by Pierce Brosnan. And Morena Baccarin, she plays a taxidermist in this film. And it's a very memorable role. So I would highly recommend this movie on digital, on demand, December 8th. If you're a Pierce Brosnan fan, Fast Charlie is a must-see. Again, the Greg special is in effect throughout this entire episode. 4 stars for me for Fast Charlie. Again, I told Bruce and Eric not to see it. They have had to do so many movies within the last week, but who knows? Maybe down the line when it comes out on streaming, maybe they'll do a rewind in future episodes. Now let's get to the final movie of the week. That is a documentary. Eric, you're just going to give a mini review of this, of A Father's Promise. What you think? What kind of people should see it? His interview with the director and writer Rick Korn will be available on our CinemAddicts podcast feed in a couple of days. But what is Father's Promise about, and do you recommend it?
Yeah, I do. It's basically, I talked a bit about it at the intro of Flick City, but it's basically about Mark Barden. He's a he's a musician, plays a bunch of music, and his son was murdered at Sandy Hook. And so he kind of falls out of playing music, eventually gets back on the horse and uses his music to kind of, sort of get the word out there about, gun violence and that sort of thing. This is kind of, I really like this documentary a lot, not just about what it says, but specifically the music. The music's really great in this. And I also like the idea. Rick Korn did another movie about, Harry Chapin, When in Doubt, Do Something. That documentary.
I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah, the documentary, and we talked about this in the interview, but that documentary has a lot in common with this, where it's about Harry Chapin and his music, but it's also Harry Chapin has his own kind of political leanings. He's really, or he was really, because he's dead now, but he was really, he had his heart set on like ending world hunger. So a lot of stuff he did was to raise money to combat world hunger. Likewise, Mark Barden, a lot of what he does is to raise money and awareness to hopefully end gun violence. A lot of people that watch this will, be pro-gun, anti-gun, whatever the case is. And that, as I mentioned in the Flick City opening, that debate is not a great debate as far as I'm concerned. It's a debate that needs to happen, but just the two sides are not talking in a way that they probably should. That said, Mark Barton's very passionate about this, and as he should be, because his son was murdered as a result of that. It's got a lot of good interviews, a lot of good interactions, a lot of great music. I would say I would put this movie right at a 3-star banger, because this is definitely one of those, like, depending on where you land on what side of the gun debate, I think very few people land in the middle, which kind of is where I'm at, but a lot of people don't. So I think a lot of people dismiss this almost immediately, whereas other people will flock right towards it. But regardless, if you just want to watch a documentary, music doc with great music, you can do that. But if you want to get a little more out of that, you can do that as well. But for the, what the documentary is about, like the gun violence portion, I would have to put this at 3-star banger, because, it's polarizing just by that virtue alone.
Okay, so 3 stars, 3-star banger from Eric Holmes. Forefathers Promise, it's in theaters. Limited release December 8th. It also features interviews with, I love Susan Tedeschi. Yeah, with Susan Tedeschi, Derek Trucks, Karen Fairchild of Little Big Town, Daryl, DMC McDaniels, Bernie Williams, and more. Yes, Eric, you want to say? And
I mentioned it, but his Rick Korn's other documentary, Harry Chapin, When in Doubt, Do Something. I saw that on Canopy, and I think it's playing other places. We talked about Sacrifice Game, Lord of Misrule, and Everyone Will Burn is a great triple feature. I think Father's Promise and Harry Chapin, When in Doubt, Do Something, make a great double feature. So Bruce, if you like this, check that out. If you like that, check this out, and vice versa.
Did we ever cover Harry Chapin, Bruce, Eric? Did we cover that documentary for Find Your Film, Movie Mainline, or CinemAddicts? Never?
Does not sound familiar to me, no.
That is weird. I thought I interviewed him before. Maybe I did see. Yeah, but it's streaming on Canopy, that Harry Chapin documentary, and I'll leave that link so people can check that out. As far as that and Father's Promise, we're leaving. Coyotes are out to eat the dog in a second. Bruce, final thoughts? Eric, let's start with you. Final thoughts?
Yeah, we have a poster up on the merch store. Check it out.
Findyourfilmpodcast.com. How long will that be up there?
Until they take it down.
Until they take it down. Okay. Is it a nice visual?
It's been like a week or two. They haven't taken it down yet, so maybe it'll be up there for a while. But yeah. And we got another playthrough of the Film Vault top 5 game coming out soon. Okay. I just recorded one with my friend Aaron and Mitch Burns. We got fewer players this time, so we get through the whole game. And so I'm excited for people to see that. And we will do more. So if you want to play, let me know, and we'll set something up.
Okay. How can they? I'll just put your email for a Film Vault playthrough.
Slime@gmail.com, or hit me up on Facebook, wherever. Okay. Or just flag me down while I'm outside feeding my dog to the coyotes and say, hey,
oh, wow. Yes,
when you're done dealing with that, can I play your game? I'll be like, cool.
It's got to so happen to me in 10 minutes. I'm so scared right now. Bruce, final thoughts.
Two quick things. If you are like me and in your free time quote, like
Right.
maybe your significant other likes to watch TV series, two good ones are out right now. Fargo season 5 is rolling. I did not watch the last two seasons, but this season so far is fantastic. Juno Temple, John Hamm, Jennifer Jason Leigh, and a whole bunch of other people. And if you have never watched Slow Horses, that's on Apple TV. Slow Horses, starring Gary Oldman, is an awesome series. It's a really good spy series where they are like there's the MI6 or whatever it is. Is it MI5? MI6? I forget.
Yeah.
Whatever that is.
Yeah, MI5.
The fancy spies in England, right? Well, the ones that don't quite cut it, they get thrown in this house called Slow House or whatever it is, Slough House. They're the slow horses, and the head of them is Gary Oldman's character, and he is like the most rumpled, annoying, grizzled old spy dude, and he has all of his ramshackle group that he sends off on missions, and they're all really fun each series. And there's a brand new series of that right now, or season of that right now.
Have you started the season yet?
Yeah, season's good so far. About 3 episodes in. It's a lot of fun. Each season is a different story, but some crossover, and they're usually only 5 or 6 episodes long because they're British. They don't have very many episodes in their series runs from season to
Is it
season.
sort of like Jean Luc Carré, like Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy kind of thing?
No, it's much more. It's
grimier.
A little grimier. It has a lot of action in it, but also a ton of great character work. I mean, literally, the character the Gary Oldman character will like go into some posh dude's limousine to like tell him what's up and why are they getting involved in this their business or whatever, and then he'll go, oh, excuse me, and then he'll just let a huge one rip. And then he'll say, "Oh, it's too bad. I got to leave." Stuff like that. So it's pretty
so
great.
funny. All right,
He's just hamming it up. Last thing I will just say, yeah, Slow Horses. Greg, if people out there that listen to this probably are thinking like, "What do I get Greg for Christmas? What do I get him?" And I know Greg isn't far behind me. I mean, he's not as old as me, but he's getting there. I'm probably like me. His fingers start getting tired, and typing and writing, it hurts. And you want to make it easier to do your job. So I would say go find that 4-star stamp, rubber stamp, and go ahead and send that off to Craig so you can just rate the movies a little easier.
Very good. How thoughtful of both Bruce and Eric. You do need to insult me more in future episodes. I do love this. I do love all the jabs and the barbs. They are well deserved. Who else is well deserved? I love both of you. Love you guys over at CinemAddicts, and of course, I love Claire the most. Here's Claire.
Goodbye, everybody. Thank you for joining CinemAddicts.
All right. I'm here with William Brent Bell, the director of Lord of Misrule. I don't know if you're familiar with the game Blood on the Clock Tower, but I got heavy vibes of that, and I kind of really enjoyed this movie quite a bit. What do you call it? Like a period piece, but it's not a period piece because it's set in the whole time I'm watching, I'm like, oh, this is a period piece. And at one point, someone's like, check social media. I'm like, wait, what? Okay, cool. But how did this movie come about?
Well, it came about. I love your background. I might know that game if I looked. I think I know what you're talking about, but I'm not like a student of that game. The movie came about. James Tomlinson, my producing partner on this movie, sent me the script and was just like, "You have to read this quickly. It's really good." And then I within 5 pages was like, "Oh yeah, this is great." And this is like in just an incredible world that was kind of created. You could tell really quickly, and so we just developed it with the writer from there. Really.
Yeah. Also, another thing you do really well in this, like early on, you have that, what would you call like a festival or like a Halloween festival. Later on, you got like people coming over, it seems like for like a dinner party. And then even kind of towards the later half where you get kind of sort of that Legion vibe, like just a bunch of people hanging out doing things. Like a lot of your movies are horror. You ever think of doing like a hangout movie, like a Dazed and Confused? Because I think you'd really nail that.
Oh, that's interesting. I mean, I like Dazed and Confused is like one of my favorites, and like the Coen brothers or so many. I mean, I wouldn't necessarily call those hangout movies that they do, but they do everything. Yeah, I mean, I love that vibe. I mean, I probably would not just do a straight hangout movie. I would probably somehow either introduce horror or turn it into a horror film in some way, shape, or form, just to kind of spice it up anyway. Why not? Dazed and Confused, meets whatever. But I love that vibe. I love working with like ensemble casts and letting them kind of, let their personalities come through their characters. Yeah, I love that stuff.
Yeah, a lot of that is with the Dazed and Confused, they take some hot drugs and end up killing themselves, and bam, there you go.
Exactly.
I also noticed like early on, I think like about half your movies you've written and directed, and half of them you've went with other screenplays. What goes with that decision? Like when do you decide like, oh, I'm going to write something, or when do you decide you take another script and I want to do that one? And what's the difference in directing each one? Like, do you take on a certain amount of responsibility on scripts that you haven't written or ones you have, and so on and so forth?
The the difference is sort of like in my earlier movies, I was writing them with Matt Peterman, and we were creating them from scratch, and that's what got me into directing the movies, and so at that point nobody was giving me scripts anyway. And then when it's hard to find good horror scripts, because I feel like if it's really good, there should be a way that the writer should make it, because that's kind of like one thing about the genre is it gives people a chance to make films. So it's rare that one comes across that's great. And The Boy was the first movie I ever made that, I didn't write. But once you get into the process, it becomes, just as protective, and I'm just as responsible for everything. I think there are probably other directors that come in and just kind of show up and don't change the script much, but I'm, depending on what it is, really involved. I'll do a rewrite of the script, and sometimes I don't take credit for that or whatever. But and sometimes I'll just work really closely with the writer, because at the end of the day, I want it to become kind of as much my movie as possible, so because the story's kind of coming through me. But it depends. And it's just about time sometimes. I mean, I love creating things from scratch, and I love reading something great that hooks me like this did.
Yeah. What are some stuff, like when you're looking at a script, what are some things that you look at where you're like, oh, I got to do this one? Like,
well, this one was pretty easy. Like immediately in Lord of Misrule, like we introduce Grace, the daughter, and she's dressed up for the festival, and she, pulls a lock of her hair out strangely, and then she grabs the scissors and goes outside and picks up her pet bunny and brings the scissors up to its throat. And the script was, the same. And then we're intercutting kind of, the church, and then we're starting to see the festival. So immediately I was like, wow, this is really painting a world that I want to get to know more about. That's pretty unique to me. And it's pretty twisted that like the first thing that's happening is this girl almost doing something to this bunny rabbit. And I was like, that's a good sign that the script's going to be great, because he's already doing really interesting things. And then as that festival unfolds and I became more familiar with the mythology, it's like, it's a highly unique mythology, but it's also kind of steeped in history. So it felt complex and unique to me, but it also felt like kind of easy to understand. And I thought that was just great writing. And it, for me, it just was very clear very quickly. I felt like I knew how I wanted to make the movie, which is always kind of the main thing. If I feel like, oh yeah, I'm speaking this guy's language as well, like we wrote it together almost, is what it felt like.
Yeah, I love cryptids. The I guess demon in this one kind of had a lot of Wendigo vibes of that. But what is the mythology of this demon? Like not within the movie, but just in real life, I guess.
There is nothing in real life. I mean, Lord of Misrule is a pretty it's been around forever. I think Roman times, And Lord of Misrule was, a guy who was kind of the town idiot who would get to be king for a week and just have a great party for the Feast of Fools, and then he would be executed. And then that kind of festival, that legend carried on through different countries for hundreds of years. And we did a change on it to where now the Lord of Misrule is kind of the hero of the town who chases the demon out. And the demon is Galogog. And that's something that Tom created. I mean, I thought when I first read about it, I thought it was pulled from something else, some other legend, but it's not. It's even a hard word to find even. And but generally, like the story of kind of a spirit god that lives in the forest, takes your children, things like that. They're themes we've played around with before with stories, certainly scary stories. And this one, was pretty unique. And there's so much more to the mythology in this one, but that's the basics, I think.
Yeah, and you've also assembled a hell of a cast. Tuppence Middleton is great in this, and Ralph Ineson. I mean, he's great in everything.
Yeah.
So like how like you're reading the script, you're going to direct it, you start putting the cast together. Like how does that process go?
It's it's different. Like casting a movie, part of it's auditions, part of it's just meeting with certain actors I'm a fan of, perhaps. And then sometimes it's like a left turn. And so, with Tuppence, she was somebody I was a fan of. She was like at the top of my list of UK actresses when we were in the UK that I wanted to meet. And then she responded to the script and we had a great meeting. And then, we had another meeting about notes and changing the script. And so she became, Rebecca pretty quickly. And then Ralph was somebody I knew I wanted to be in the movie. And I've worked with him before and we're good friends. And I think, like you said, like he's great in everything he's in. And he just, brings something kind of unique to his character no matter what. And in this case, the script we were, even the script that Tuppence signed on to, Jocelyn was a woman. It was like a 70-year-old woman. And I went to go meet with him about playing a smaller part in the movie, which seemed kind of like a waste. And then as we got to talking, basically it was, I asked him if he would be interested in playing Jocelyn, and who of course was a woman in the script. And he thought that was really cool. And then we decided for him to, for the first thing I did before I fully made it official was I called Tuppence and I was like, listen, are you cool if Ralph Ineson plays Jocelyn and we make it a man? And she was like, if he wants to do that, that's fucking amazing. Like, then do it. And I was like, great. And then, the first thing we did, we were going to change her name from Jocelyn. And then we both decided, let's keep her the way she is and not change a thing about her, pretty much.
Yeah. And also,
that was a pretty different kind of way to cast somebody in a role.
Yeah, I would say so. But like you did Orphan First Kill right before this, Separation before that, Brahms Boy 2. Like you're just one after another. I'm assuming you got 2 or 3 movies all ready to go after this one, or what do you got coming up next?
Yeah, we have 2 movies we're going to shoot in 2024. Both of them going to be shot in the UK with the same crew, some of the same cast, I hope. And they're both, one's more science fiction and horror, and one is pretty much horror. I guess you'd say horror, like thriller, drama.
It's like Dazed and Confused, but horror.
Yeah, and that's the third one now. I'll call you about that later. But it's like we're developing another movie in the Boy franchise, and it lends itself more to what you're describing, I would say, about the Dazed and Confused. But I don't know. It's too early really to say.
Sweet. Well, one of the questions we ask everyone is we have a What's in the Box segment. And in this box, we have people put movies that are like really personal to them, or maybe they're just an underseen movie. Like this movie's really good and no one ever talks about it. What's a movie you would like to put in the box?
Well, a movie I would put in the box would be The Other. It's not The Others, which is a cool movie with Nicole Kidman. It's a movie from like 1972, I think, in 1974. It's called The Other, and it's about two twin brothers growing up in this like remote kind of farm area. And one's good and one's bad, and one starts kind of people start winding up dead in different ways. And then it's like the name Holland, the poster is like, what's in the where's the baby Holland? Very much like what's in the box. And
there you go.
And it's where's the baby Holland?
We'll change the segment to what's in the baby. Start pulling movies like we won't
what's in the
that.
box Holland, which is the last name of this family in this movie, the Hollands. But it's a great movie. It was based on a novel in the same era that like The Exorcist and The Omen came out originally.
Sweet.
And it's just a weird, creepy movie with a huge twist. That's just so many things about it are great.
Well, weird and creepy. You're speaking to my heart. I love weird and creepy. But William, thanks for joining me. And
yes.
Lord of Misrule will be available in theaters. Thumbs up for that. And on demand December 8th. And congratulations. And hope a lot of people see this one. I think they'll be rightfully creeped out by it.
All right. Thanks, man.